Have you ever thought, why does weight loss feel so hard? Even when your heart is in it, even when you've promised yourself this time is different? Why do you make a plan in the morning and by the end of the day, you're eating something completely off of it? Even though you want this more than anything, there's a reason. And it's not a lack of willpower, it's not a personal failure, it's your brain. Over the past several weeks on the Healthy Real Food podcast, we've been exploring your path to peace and how some people genuinely thrive with a moderation approach to a healthy real food lifestyle. They can enjoy processed foods occasionally and still feel in control. But for many people, moderation doesn't bring peace. It brings cravings, obsession, and that heartbreaking feeling of, oh, like, why can't I just get it together? So, today and next week, I want to speak directly to those of you who have tried moderation again and again, and deep down, you know it's not working for you. You feel out of control around certain foods, you've tried everything, and you're exhausted. Today's episode is going to help you to understand why and to help you to find a path to peace. So, we are diving into the science of how sugar, flour, and highly processed foods affect your brain and how they hijack your reward center, disrupt hunger signals, intensify your cravings, and make moderation nearly impossible for people who are biologically or genetically sensitive to them. When you understand what's happening in your brain, everything finally starts to make sense and you can ditch the shame and the guilt about it and you can move forward toward your goal body. And I want you to know this lesson is actually straight from my Success Path course. It's one of the core trainings my clients receive inside of my coaching program. And what you're hearing today is just a small taste of the clarity, the tools, the support you receive when we work together to help you to lose weight for the last time. And if, as you're listening to this, you find yourself thinking, this is me. I need more support. I don't want to keep doing this on my own. I want to personally invite you to schedule a free, no obligation coaching call with me at healthyrealfood.com. So that's my website. This is a private one-on-one conversation where you and I sit down together. We talk about your goals and what's been getting in your way and what lasting change could actually look like for you. You'll get personalized guidance and clarity, and we will explore whether working together inside of my program is the next step. And since we're heading into Christmas and the new year, this is the perfect time to get started. This is something that you may want to ask for or gift yourself for Christmas to get help and support inside of my coaching program. So, if you want to start the new year with momentum instead of regret, giving yourself this time and support may be the greatest gift you ever receive. So, I hope that you enjoy the podcast today. Next week, we're going to continue on with this conversation with the powerful episode on how to be successful with complete abstinence from sugar and flour. If you feel like that truly is your path to peace, and how to make this lifestyle simple, joyful, and sustainable, even if it feels really overwhelming right now. After that, I'm going to be taking off 2 weeks for Christmas to be with my family and to do some back end work on the business. So during that break, I encourage you to go back and listen to some of the most impactful episodes we released this year. Everything from mindset and cravings to metabolism, menopause, and sustainable weight loss tips. So there's so much there to support you. If you missed any of the Healthy Real Food podcast episodes this year, you can go ahead and catch up on those during the break. All right, my friends. So let's talk about how your brain is blocking you from weight loss and what you can do about it. This is episode number 225 of the Healthy Real Food podcast: how to stop fighting your brain and start losing weight for good. This is the Healthy Real Food podcast. I'm your coach, Erin Hart, a registered nurse and health coach who understands the struggle of feeling out of control around food and has walked the path of transformation. If you are a woman who feels powerless against your cravings and is ready to live your life with more energy, mental clarity, and purpose, there is hope. Here, we believe that with God, a mindset of unstoppability, and consistent execution of a winning strategy, anything is possible for you. So, if you're ready to find freedom from food addiction, take control of your health, and pursue your dreams with renewed energy, support, and accountability, let's go. Welcome to step 2 of the success path, create your plan. In the last module, we discussed the importance of mastering your mindset by having a clear vision and a deep why. So I hope that you did your success work and you journaled about your insights. The success work is really how we make all of this real, right? It's not just enough to know this stuff. We have to do it and apply it to experience the benefits. In this module, you will learn about the science of how our brains block us from losing weight. You will learn the foundational principles of a sustainable, healthy, real food lifestyle, and you will create your plan by defining your boundaries around food. And this is the process of just developing a winning strategy. If you remember the success framework that was introduced in the first module, to achieve extraordinary success with sustainable weight loss, we need to master our mindset, develop a winning strategy, and consistently execute your plan. It's so important to have all 3 of these pillars, like a stool with 3 legs. If you take away one of the legs, the stool is going to fall. And likewise, to achieve success with our health goals, we must have all 3, because if you have a great mindset, but are consistently executing a flawed plan or strategy, right, you won't achieve success. Or if you have a winning strategy, but you don't execute it, you're not going to get anywhere. You need all 3 of these pillars to achieve success with your goals. So today we're going to focus on developing a winning strategy, because just as if you're running east as fast as you can to see a sunset, no matter how much effort you exert, you aren't going to be successful because it's the wrong strategy. So when creating your plan, we want to consider the principles of how to develop a winning strategy. There are 2 ways to develop a winning strategy. We can learn from others, from their successes and their mistakes, and then we can learn from our own experience, from our successes and failures. And ideally, it's better to learn from others, right? So that you can avoid to make mistakes. But failure is part of the success path and part of developing a winning strategy. Don't be afraid of failure. It is how we learn. It's not all or nothing. You are a human person and you will make mistakes. It's okay. The key is to learn from your mistakes, and we often learn more from our failures than we do our successes. So while you're learning and going through this transformation process, I encourage you to work closely with your primary care physician. They can guide you and follow your progress to make sure that you're being healthy and that your labs look normal. They can help you to adjust your medications, if you're on any medications, as you lose weight, and also manage any specific medical needs that you have. Your body is going to change a lot from changing the way that you eat. So it's common to need to come off of medications or decrease your dosages. And I'm a nurse, but I don't give medical advice outside of the hospital. So please work closely with your doctor. So for those of us that have the goal of losing weight and maintaining a healthy body weight, we can learn from those who have gone before, right? So the good news is that there is a ton of data out there. The diet industry is a $76 billion industry. So we have a really big sample size because over 70% of our population in the United States and about 2 billion people worldwide are overweight or obese. About half of those people are actively trying to lose weight. But shockingly, only 1% of the people that attempt weight loss will be successful at losing all of their excess weight. And only 1% of that 1% will keep it off long term. Look at that number. That is a very small percentage of people. But to me, it gives me hope. It gives me hope because I think that if they can do it, so can I. Those are the people that we want to learn from as we are developing our own strategy. So, what has caused this obesity epidemic? Obesity is a very dangerous disease. 63% of people in our society are suffering from preventable diet related diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and some cancers, right? And they're dying too young because of what they're eating. And it is such a tragedy. In my career as a nurse, when I worked on the surgical floor, it was just so heartbreaking to see lives cut short, to see limbs amputated, blindness, lack of mobility, kidney and liver problems, heart attack, stroke, as a result from eating too much processed, unhealthy food. And I'm not going to lie, it's ugly. It is not something that you want to have to deal with. But I get it. I know all too well from firsthand experience why people struggle with this and they don't change their diet. Even when diagnosed with these diseases, I was 284 pounds myself, and I was a nurse, for heaven's sake. I get it. I know the pain and the struggle. And what I hope that you get from this module, if you're currently feeling powerless against your cravings and an insatiable appetite, if you're struggling with your relationship with food and your body, there is hope. And I hope that these videos will give you hope because there really is good news. There is a solution. But before we discuss the solution, we have to better understand the problem. What is happening to us? Why are so many of us struggling with this issue? Well, our brains have been hijacked. Our food supply over the past 50 years has changed. In the grocery stores, we find so much processed food. In some places in the country, there are food deserts where fresh produce is really hard to find. There are fast food restaurants everywhere that contain ingredients that are designed to make them crave-worthy so that we buy more. Much of our food is manufactured and full of preservatives and artificial colors and flavors and ingredients that we can't even pronounce, instead of being grown from the ground the way that God makes food. And it's making us so sick as a society. Our bodies need food the way that God made it. Processed foods are foods that are unnaturally palatable because they contain sugar and flour, which makes them fast, cheap, and convenient, but it also makes those foods really addictive. Now, if you're wondering if food can really be addictive, the answer is yes. This was news to me too, but understanding the science of food addiction and adopting a sugar and flour-free lifestyle is what allowed me to lose 125 pounds and keep it off, along with tens of thousands of other people who have changed their life with a sugar and flour-free lifestyle. So let's talk about the science of food addiction. Our brain is really good at its job. It is designed to protect us from starvation. And in caveman times, these protective measures, they kept us alive. But in today's world of abundance, where there's too much food everywhere, it's not so helpful anymore. But still, our brains actively are blocking us from losing weight. There are a few ways that our brains do this. Have you ever felt a really strong craving for a certain type of food? Like other addictive substances, when we eat sugar and flour, the pleasure center of our brain lights up. We can see this clearly on brain scans, and researchers have discovered that the brains of obese people on MRI are very similar to the brains of people who are addicted to other addictive substances. Deep in our brain is a part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens. And this is the dopamine reward center of our brain, or in other words, the pleasure center of our brain, the addiction center of our brain. And when it comes to our food, it is stimulated when we eat something really sweet or delicious. Our brains release the neurotransmitter dopamine, which is that pleasure. It gives us that feeling of pleasure. Well, the problem is dopamine downregulation. In today's food culture, The highly processed foods that we eat nowadays are overly and unnaturally palatable. They are overly sweet or palatable so that our brains release a flood of dopamine when we eat them. Way more dopamine than we can handle with the amount of dopamine receptors that we have. So our brain recognizes that we have too much stimulation and dopamine, and then it compensates by taking away some of the receptors and making them less responsive. So our brains thin out the dopamine receptors. This is called dopamine downregulation. And it's a big problem because the less dopamine receptors we have, the more dopamine we need to feel normal, to feel a normal amount of pleasure. So our brains require more and more stimulation just to feel normal. And this is the science of cravings and the science of addiction. This is why we crave processed food and other drugs once we've been exposed to them. Sugar and flour are literally drugs. So when you think of drugs like cocaine and heroin, they come from natural sources like poppy seeds and coca leaves, which on their own are not addictive. But if you take the inner essence of the plant, you extract it and you refine it and purify it down into a fine white powder, you turn it into a drug. And that's exactly the same process that we use to make sugar and flour. Sugar especially has been found to be highly addictive and can flood the reward center of the brain with dopamine, causing us to feel really good in the moment, but that feeling soon fades and those overpowering cravings for more begin. We then require more and more of that highly processed, highly palatable food to achieve the same level of satisfaction. And that is the science of addiction. Research shows that it is literally as addictive as heroin and cocaine. Sugar and flour are literally as addictive as heroin and cocaine. So when we say that sugar is addictive or that it's a drug, it's not a metaphor. That is a fact. Another way that our brains block us from losing weight is because of leptin resistance. Have you ever eaten a full meal and then gone to the fridge to look for more food? Or you eat a full meal and then you go to a movie theater and buy all of the snacks, right? Even though you're not really physically hungry. Have you ever found yourself mindlessly eating? Well, in the mid 1990s, scientists discovered a hormone called leptin. Leptin is the hormone that makes us feel full and want to move. It's the hormone that tells your brain that it's not hungry anymore and that your body wants to be active. So this is a really important hormone to have if you're trying to lose weight or to maintain a healthy weight, right? When our leptin is on board, we feel satiated and we have the desire to move our bodies. Well, in the past 10 or 20 years, scientists discovered a phenomenon called leptin resistance. They discovered that insulin, the hormone that helps to regulate high blood sugar, and triglycerides, they block leptin. So what happens is when we eat sugar and flour and those highly refined and processed foods, we have spikes in our blood sugar levels. And when things are processed into a fine powder, they're just absorbed into our bloodstream quickly and they cause that spike in blood sugar. Well, our body responds by releasing massive amounts of insulin to decrease blood glucose levels, resulting in crashes of your blood sugar, right? It feels terrible. Have you ever experienced that crash after a sugar binge? Well, the problem is that all of the insulin that was released is blocking leptin, which is that hormone that makes you feel full and want to move. Leptin resistance is also caused by high triglycerides and overall systemic inflammation. When your leptin is blocked, your brain can't see it and you never feel full. The result of leptin resistance, it creates in us this insatiable hunger that makes you want to eat mindlessly all of the time, even when you're not hungry. But the good news is that When you take sugar and flour out of your diet, all three of these come down: the insulin, the triglycerides, and the systemic inflammation. And then your brain can see your leptin again. And you can generally just have this feeling of satiation and you start to want to move your body. I experienced this when I gave up sugar and flour. After a couple of months, I I started to just feel really satisfied all of the time with my food. I wasn't craving anything and I had the desire to just move, like I wanted to go run or be active, right? And to me, this is the magic of a sugar and flour free lifestyle. It feels like magic, but it's actually just the science of leptin resistance. You can create freedom from cravings and you can find peace with your food and your body. By eliminating highly processed foods from your diet, like sugar and flour, your blood sugar levels become much more stable. And instead of the big spikes and crashes in your blood sugar, you have much more gentle changes and more stable blood sugars. Eliminating sugar and flour from your diet helps you to feel so much more in control. But not everyone needs to completely abstain from sugar and flour. Some people are more susceptible to experiencing food addiction than others, just as some people are more predisposed to experiencing drug or alcohol addiction than others. Other people can moderate alcohol, right? But you may be a person that experiences food addiction if you're watching this video. So the question is, should I abstain completely from sugar or flour, or should I moderate? So to abstain or to moderate, that is the question. Not every brain is susceptible to addiction, any addiction. When it comes to addiction, 1/3 of people aren't susceptible at all. 1/3 of brains are moderately susceptible, and 1/3 of brains are highly addictive. So for some, there may be a genetic component, but it also can be environmental as well. You know that you're highly susceptible to food addiction if you have ever struggled with control over how much you eat. So if you can't stop eating when you're full, or once you start eating, you feel powerless to stop, that is a sign of food addiction. Or if you don't often feel satisfied after eating a normal sized meal, if you have frequent, intense cravings for specific foods, so much that you'll drive to great lengths to go and satisfy those cravings. Or you may be a person that experiences food addiction if you think about it all of the time, if you think about your food, what you are eating or not eating, like if you have a lot of food chatter, food thoughts. And so if you're struggling with binge eating, that's another thing, right? Binge eating means consuming huge amounts of food while feeling out of control and powerless to stop. That's another indicator of food addiction. So if you have ever in your life experienced one or all of these, you have a brain that is susceptible to food addiction. But there are a lot of different parts of that spectrum. And if you mostly feel in control and have peace with your food, in your body, right, you probably don't need to completely abstain from sugar and flour. I know a lot of people that successfully moderate, but for me, I have a very addictive brain. And so trying to moderate for me, it makes me feel crazy and that's why I was on that dieting roller coaster for years when I was trying to moderate the sugar and flour. But if you experience these indicators frequently, you will probably find a lot more peace by completely abstaining from sugar and flour and just drawing a line in the sand that you just don't cross. You definitely get to decide. There is no food police and no judgment from anyone in our community. You have to find what gives you the most peace. I understand that giving up sugar and flour can feel really scary and overwhelming. For a long time, sugar and flour has been a big part of our life. It's ingrained in family traditions and holidays. It's convenient and cheap. It's easier and faster to prepare. But you know what? In my experience, I discovered that life is so much better for me without it. When I first learned about food addiction, it did not resonate with me. I had never thought about my issues with food that way. I just thought that I had a problem with overeating. I was a compulsive overeater and I'd binge on food out of habit and also to deal with emotions. And it wasn't until my first week of going sugar and flour free that I realized that I truly do experience food addiction. In the hospital, when I worked with adults, I'd care for many patients that were detoxing from drugs, alcohol, nicotine, and other addictive substances. And it was miserable for them. I watched them go through detox. They have physical withdrawal symptoms like flu-like symptoms, headaches, fatigue, exhaustion, chills, muscle and bone pain. And I was so shocked when I gave up sugar and flour. I'm a person that's never done drugs or alcohol, never smoked a cigarette, right? But when I gave up sugar and flour, I experienced those same symptoms of withdrawal. I have a brain that experiences food addiction. I was sick for about a week, and I don't like to say that I am a food addict because I think that identity is a really powerful thing, and that part of my life doesn't define me as a person. So instead, I choose to say that I experience food addiction, but it's so true. I truly have found that I experience food addiction, and that and going through detox was so eye-opening to me of how my brain has a dependence on it. So many of us do experience food addiction and don't even realize it, but there is power in discovering that because once we know that food addiction is part of the problem, then we can do something about it. Our bodies are each made of trillions of cells, and every single cell in your body demands food. We literally are what we eat. So, whether you experience food addiction or not, a healthy real food lifestyle is just the key to longevity and health. Healthy real food, the way that God made it, is truly the best medicine for our bodies. When we eat a variety of colorful foods from every food group, the way that God made them in their whole form, that is ideal for our human bodies. That healthy real food lifestyle will help our cells, our tissues, our organs to function optimally. Eating processed food is like putting the wrong kind of gas in your car. It is going to create a problem. And I remember when I was a teenager, my mom put diesel fuel in her car once on accident, and it ruined it. It was a super expensive repair. Likewise, we really need to fuel our bodies properly so that we don't get sick. And we do that with whole, nutritious, real food. Nutrition is the key. We all know what foods are healthy and unhealthy, but if we know that, then why don't we eat them? Well, that's the other way that our brain actively blocks us from weight loss. It's willpower depletion. Have you ever committed to your meal plan? And then after a long day of working or cleaning the house and checking emails, when the kids are crying or when you're just tired and emotional and you just get to the point where you don't even care anymore and you just eat whatever you feel like. So has anyone else done that beside me, right? That is willpower depletion. There is an area of your brain behind the prefrontal cortex, which is the front of your brain that makes us the most human. And it's called the anterior cingulate cortex, which is the part of our brain that helps us to make decisions. It helps us to organize and check off tasks. It regulates our emotions. And it also helps us to resist temptation. It does a lot. Like you do, probably, right? To me, it's like the mom of the brain. And before you know it, that part of your brain gets really tired because of all of the stuff it's doing. This part of the brain gets fried after just 15 minutes of an intense load. So after 15 minutes of making decisions, regulating our emotions, resisting temptation, checking emails, checking off tasks, that part of the brain just kind of stops working. It takes a break. So when we are in that willpower depleted state and we're trying to resist the cookies that have been on the counter for days, yeah, you know what happens. There's just no way. There's no way that you'll be able to resist temptation in that willpower depleted state, even though the higher part of your brain is telling you that it's not what you want. The lower part of our brain wins that round because the part of your brain that has your goals in mind is offline. So, in order to achieve peace with our food and our body, to lose weight for the last time and finally get off of the dieting roller coaster, to be that 1% of 1% of people that is able to lose weight and keep it off long term, we have to understand how to overcome those powerful cravings that come from the addictive center of our brain. We have to overcome the insatiable hunger that's a result of leptin resistance. And we have to learn to bypass the need for willpower. In the next section, we will learn that there is hope. There is hope for those of us who are struggling with our weight and our relationship with food, and that you can overcome those barriers as we discuss the foundational principles of a healthy, real food lifestyle. Thanks for listening today. If you enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love my coaching program. If you're struggling and want to lose weight for the last time, I can help you. Just imagine living in your goal body and having peace with food. Your success is guaranteed. To learn more about how to get support, guidance, and accountability so you can find peace with food, achieve your goal body this year, and have more energy, visit www.healthyrealfood.com. While you're there, click the link to my schedule for a free one-to-one coaching call so we can get you started on your success path. You have the power to create the life that you want. This is the year of you. I'm cheering you on. Now go win the day. You got this.